At Dave Cooper Live, we connect the industry leaders in the architectural, engineering, and construction space with the people, the products, and the processes to help them build it better. All right, welcome everybody to Dave Cooper Live, where we showcase the people, the products, and the processes, helping us all to build it better. And today we welcome Nate Peterson, CEO and founder of Vederra Modular, a new 140,000 square foot factory in Aurora, Colorado. Nate is a 20-year veteran in the modular industry, completing over 500 modular projects in every corner of the state. He's an installer, a general contractor, a mechanical engineer, and a critical thinker, recipient of Colorado's funding to support the growth of housing manufacturers, and hopefully provider of more affordable housing. He's worked with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, also known as NREL, to produce net zero modular housing, and he's determined to make it easier to work with local and state building officials in order to maximize modular construction efficiencies from start to finish. This guy is just getting started, and you're going to hear all about it right here on Dave Cooper Live, after we give a big shout out to all of our awesome supporting members and sponsors. Forward Solutions Group is successfully driving companies to succeed where others have failed. Are you looking to start a factory, optimize your existing factory, streamline your production, or take your team to the next level? Whatever your needs are, Forward has a solution for you. Reach out to Ben at forwardsolutionsgroup.com. Halleck Ltd. has a long history of innovation in cold form steel manufacturing and producing innovative precision roll forming technology for customers throughout the United States and the world. Check out their machine buyer's guide for off-site modular construction or fast build construction with light steel for framing. Go to their website, halleckltd.com. Brought to you by Greatech, one of the largest Autodesk partners globally and software developer of the PowerPack Advanced Design, Advanced Steel, and the StruxSoft product line. The complete solution to automate wood and light gauge steel framing, design, and documentation all the way out to CNC output, model, design, and manufacture with StruxSoft. Learn more at StruxSoftSolutions.com. All right. Again, thanks so much, everybody, for joining and tuning in today. We love it when we get to showcase manufacturers from across the country and around the world, and today is no different. So why don't we hop into it right now, and let's bring Nate onto the show. Nate, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm doing amazing. Super happy to have you with us today. Listen, Nate, before we get into this, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Don't leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we're going to have your daughter on. And by the way, she has her own podcast, everybody, and we'll share that in a bit. But she will throw you under the bus as well because she's a hard interviewer. You only got 2 minutes. The floor is yours.
Oh, goodness. So, I started, I feel like I've been around for a long time. It's been almost 20 years in Colorado, building modular projects. We have a dealership, producing, everything from single families, multifamilies. We do our own development work, from an affordable housing standpoint. And, it's just been an interesting ride over the years, not a lot of interest, so to speak, statewide, from a modular product standpoint for years. And as, kind of our housing crisis has gotten worse and worse, in the last, 5, 6, specifically, our state's really trying to figure out how to solve some of our affordable housing problems. And, we've done a lot, in the last couple of years, and I think a lot's in front of us, even more so, as we, try to basically really revitalize, a factory presence in Colorado, which has, largely been gone, for the last decade or so in Colorado.
So lead us up to how this all kind of came about, and so you have been building modular homes and buildings for a long time now,
Yeah.
and now you're actually jumping in the world of manufacturing, which I always find takes a lot of guts, but also takes a lot of experience, which you have. Why don't you walk us through how this all came about? Why are you switching from being just a dealer and general contractor and installer to a full-fledged manufacturing facility?
Yeah, a couple, during the last downturn, 08, 9, 10, we lost every factory that we had in our state. And we spent almost 10 years, none of them came back. And, our industry, even though, so we started bringing in everything from out of state, and started really kind of, talking to, the people at the state about, trying to find some ways to, get manufacturing reestablished in the state, so we're not having to deliver everything and return of jobs, return of payroll, return of, all the things. And so we ran some bills about 2 years ago now, to establish, some funding mechanisms for modular factories that were interested in coming into the state. And those got great support from our state and the affordable housing organizations and all the above. And we got to the point where, applications were about to open up, for these, revolving loans, basically, for opening up manufacturing. And it's something I've always wanted to do, but had to be the right, scenario and the right time, from a market standpoint, and kind of started looking around the state as to who might be on that list that could put one of these together, and realized I was probably on the list. And don't want to be 65 years old someday looking back, wondering if I wish I would have tried. And so started to kind of, call all the people that I've, spent 20 years meeting and knowing,
Right.
All over the country, as far as just the experts and stuff like that, and really started to put together a team to be able to support our state's housing, and applied and we're
You got it.
and got it. Yeah.
You got it. Well, and it also helps that you have NREL right in your backyard there as well, right? With all of their testing and their facilities, which if you've never been there, I highly suggest going.
Oh, it's amazing. Absolutely.
It's insane, the testing and the facilities.
They're excited to kind of have a factory in their backyard finally, because they've done so much work with modular over the years, right? With all their testing and everything like that. They're looking at being able to do some time studies, in different stations for different technologies they want to try to implement. And that's kind of what the partnership that we put together allows them to do. So,
you know what? It's funny you say that, because when I was out there a couple years ago now, probably 2-3 years ago, they actually have modules outside that they're running tests
running their test on. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Energy usage, things like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So recent headlines list Vederra as one of 8 modular housing manufacturers named by the governor's pool, as you were mentioning, to receive funding for modular housing loans.
Yeah.
What does that truly mean? And really, was it, you made it sound so, oh, we applied, we got it. Was it that easy?
No, it was not. It took some time. And so it's actually the way that the state categorizes innovative housing. not necessarily modular. And so of the 8 or 9 awards, that we're giving, a couple of them are like 3D printed homes, a 3D printed home manufacturer, a panelization factory, and some other, kind of timber, type stuff and things like that. I think there's about 3 of us, I think, that are modular, traditional volumetric modular, from that standpoint. But no, we had, it was a application process that, had a panel of, 9 industry experts that they hired to come and, interview all of us and go through our pro formas and experiences and all that stuff. Yeah. So they did a really good job, kind of taking it, they were very deliberate, about, kind of, who they were looking at. I think they had 16 or 17 applicants first cut. So
16 or 17 applicants in the first cut.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
No kidding. Well, and so out of everybody, how many different companies in the offsite space made it, whether it's 3D printing, offsite, do you know?
I almost all of them, but I want to say it's like 7 of the 9 or something like that.
Got it. And can you share how much was the funding for?
Absolutely. So what they had this first go around was a $40 million pool that they were awarding.
Okay.
And our award was 6 million, and others got in variations around that. I think the largest one was 8 or 8.5 or something like that.
No kidding. I love it. Yeah. All right, perfect. Hey, listen.
Yeah.
Anytime you get the money,
revolving loans, you have to pay them back. They're not a grant, and they're just basically, to support the growth, of the industry in the state as the state's trying to figure out what to do, from an affordability standpoint.
Right. So you've been working with NREL, and your focus with NREL has to come up with ideas or better ways to build more net zero homes. Is that accurate in saying it that way?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we want to be able to provide, if the customer wants, then, net zero, housing, either, also the Zero Home Ready program as well. And so trying to kind of bring in some of those federal subsidies, for projects, by being able to provide that product, the way affordable housing works is there's no silver bullet left. All you can do is chip away at it, with various mechanisms. And so, we just wanted to make sure that we kind of opened up, those energy rebates and things like that, to folks, to be able to help with the cost.
Right. All right. So what's the secret sauce then? You got to figure it out. You're opening a new factory. You must have a secret sauce to what it's going to take to actually use modular construction and meet net zero standards.
I think the big difference with what we propose to the state, compared to some of the more traditional methods, is that we're leasing a facility. I think that's probably the secret sauce in modular is how to stay in business, right? Let's just be honest. It's a hard business, and so the secret sauce is how to manage your cost and be able to not have these $25-30 million basis on these built factories. And so, I think that's where our approach is a little bit different, is, we're not having that big, facility building outlay. Now, we'll have some challenges from it, right? These facility isn't everything you want it to be, right? You didn't get to design it the way that is perfect. And so, like, we're definitely, working through that from a design standpoint. But yeah, so it's something that, we really think we can kind of keep our basis low enough, to be able to run a successful modular operation.
Some people would say, that it is not possible to build net zero housing affordably, right? What's your take on that? And my guess is it is able to be done. It's not even my guess. I've done this a long time, and we've had so many conversations.
Yeah, it is able to be done,
but we have not seen a modular manufacturer really take it to the next level like you're talking about. So why don't you tell us a little bit about
one of the things? Yeah. Like, one of the things that is kind of maybe unique to our state is that we have, the governor's also been very proactive from an energy code standpoint. And we actually have a statewide energy code that's about to be implemented, I believe at the beginning of next year. I could be wrong on that. And so our state is going to basically be getting really close to providing, net zero housing as a requirement from an energy code standpoint. It's a little ways away. There's some baby steps, to get us there or whatever, but from our standpoint, it's coming whether we like it or not, in Colorado. And so from our standpoint, we want to be able to provide that from day one. And so, from a standpoint of, what makes something net zero, obviously, your building assembly, and that's what NREL's, kind of helped us, put together as far as, the actual installation, strategy and things like that. But then we're all electric, on the heating and cooling side of things. And depending if the roof design allows it from a shipping standpoint, we'll have solar installation, at the factory if it's feasible.
That's great. So when you say all electric, low voltage or just regular, 110?
Heat pump.
Heat pumps?
Heat pumps.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Heat pumps for, for heating and cooling as well as water heaters is what
Got it.
really, that, and a lot of that's going to, through those conversations, the partnership with NREL, they're kind of the experts at it. And so, we're just kind of taking their lead and they're happy to kind of step in and help.
Tell us about the factory, and then we're going to get into your presentation. So it's going to be a full volumetric modular manufacturing facility, 140,000 square foot. Tell us more.
It's an industrial warehouse building. It's in Aurora, Colorado, which is, call it Denver, from a suburb standpoint. It's out by DIA. Everybody's, a lot of people listen to this have flown into DIA. It's kind of out in that neck of the woods. And, it's from a production standpoint, we think we'll have, around 100, 150 employees. Our ramp up, I'm pretty conservative from a pro forma standpoint, so I have us producing, a couple hundred boxes after year one, but from a facility, capacity standpoint, if everything goes well, we will absolutely be able to produce in that, 500 plus range, on an annual basis. But, walk before you run. I think we're going to have 16 stations, in the facility. We're not able to put in overhead cranes because it's a lease facility. This is the challenge, right? So we're using a lot of gantry cranes on tracks, things like that. This is kind of my happy mechanical engineering, space in my head, is to think through all that kind of stuff. And
and if you're out there, hey, help Nate think through these things. But Nate, here's what's interesting about your approach to this is you're trying to come up and you're working on a system that you can lease out of pretty much any big Amazon facility, storage center, right? Shipping center. You're looking to come up with a system that can be systematized to pretty much any warehouse across the country.
Scalable. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I get excited about, because, we have such a need for housing production, in this industry. And the problem is we have these facilities that are costing a lot of money. And, if we can figure out how to master doing it into a facility that every town and every state has this same building in some variation, that's a pretty exciting thing, to be able to kind of, scale.
Yeah, it definitely is. One last question, and then I'm going to hop in the presentation. What's the pipeline look like for you right now? I know you said the secret sauce is how to stay in business, right? As a modular. So is the order book looking good?
Yeah, it's challenging out there right now. Just being, transparent. I have a dealership that we have, 3,000 people come to a year, and that's down right now as well. Obviously, I think that's kind of across the board, from an industry standpoint. But for us, it's starting to come together. We have some partnerships that we're making out there with some Habitat for Humanity locations, trying to help them increase their production by, kind of providing a modular product that can be finished with volunteers instead of the whole house, being built that way. And we're working with a lot of affordable housing, organizations across the state, trying to kind of, get those projects kind of lined up. We're targeting the end of fourth quarter this year, from a production standpoint. Equipment's on order currently, hoping to really have a full 2025, and that's what we're really kind of starting to kind of dial in. The good news is that when you start up one of these things, your production rate's pretty low. Yeah, if you're conservative, at least, you're not going to conquer the world the first 3 months, and so if you can find those orders for 30, 40 units, you're going to fill up 3 to 4 months of production, and that just buys you more time to find the next one. And so it's kind of where we're at.
Excellent. I'm going to put your presentation up on the screen. Who's this handsome young fella?
Who's that guy? I feel like that's me in the white shirt straight up 15 years ago. So, I think that, the biggest thing from my background standpoint is not only just obviously being in our industry, but Really, being involved in the Division of Housing is the state's, modular program administrator, and certainly been involved with them for a lot of years. We have a committee that writes all the rules and adopts the codes and all that kind of stuff, in the modular industry. And then I've also gotten involved in affordable housing over the years. And one of the things I kind of wanted to highlight, and just, to kind of give you guys a little bit of a visual of kind of where Colorado is at, in modular housing. And so national market share, according to, MHI or MBI, is around that 3 to 4%, from a single family residential, standpoint in modular housing. And in Colorado, we're at 1.5%. We're pretty low. We're behind the rest of the country as far as modular utilization, from a market share standpoint.
Okay.
And then for multifamily stuff, it's even less. So most of the product that comes to Colorado are single family homes right now. That's what I've dealerships sold for years. We're well below, MBI, 5-6%, on the commercial side, the multifamily side, and so Colorado's not even making 0.5%, on that. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of need in Colorado, for the product. Where they're coming from, this is an interesting one. So Nebraska's leading the way, in Colorado. They're providing over 50% of the product that comes here. Colorado's producing about 8% of our own demand today. That's why our state really is trying to make a concerted effort to reestablish, the modular industry, in our state. I want to talk a little bit about a couple of things that we're doing, from a regulatory standpoint in Colorado. So we have, just to give everybody context, we have a statewide modular oversight program that's administered by our Division of Housing, and they do a great job. They actually won an award at World of Modular for best state-run program. Sam and Donnie and Mo are great guys that we've all been working with for years. And one of the things so we have a statewide adopted building code, but what we don't have control over are a couple things in our state. We don't have control over anything fire code related. We don't have anything snow, wind, load. Those are all left up to the local jurisdictions. We're a home rule state. So that means that all the local jurisdictions, I think there's 380 of them in Colorado, all can make their own local amendments, whatever it is. And so it's a challenge in our industry. And that might be one of the reasons why we're a little bit behind the rest of the country. And so a couple of the things that we're kind of thinking through is, for example, like if you look at fire suppression codes in Colorado, we defer to the local on those. Well, the problem is we have 380 locals with all sorts of different criteria on when a sprinkler system is required. And then we also have local amendments where they require certain materials that are, outside of the actual code materials that are allowed in the code. And so for what we're looking at doing is kind of standardizing into what I call bands, where the state can, kind of come out and say, look, you have 3 options. You can pick whichever one you want. We're not, you still have control of what's coming into your jurisdiction, but, we'd like to make this so that factories can have some sort of standardization. That's the key, right? Manufacturing, standardization, 2 words go hand in hand. And so by providing them options, they still have control, but it allows the factories to increase on their efficiencies, because we're not designing 380 versions and figuring out when we have to and when we don't have to, depending on the jurisdiction. And so we're looking at doing that for fire suppression codes. Another big one in our state, our natural disaster out here are wildfires, right? And so fire resistant materials are a really big thing. All of that applies, everything I just said about sprinklers also applies. We have some jurisdictions that require cement board. Some require certain size vents in their soffit, others don't. And it's all over the board, and there's 380 of them. And so we're looking at trying to rewrite our statute this next legislative session to be able to provide options. They can, if they want, it all in crazy, good fire, resistant materials, they can pick option 1. But if they don't want to, they can pick option 2 and 3. But at least from a factory standpoint, from a material sourcing standpoint, we now know what we need to buy.
Right.
Because there's 3 versions that we're going to ship out all the time instead of 380. And so, because what happens with a lot of the factories now, when you're shipping into Colorado, you end up having to leave all your siding off. because it's some unique configuration that's required for where its final destination is. And so it allows, modular projects, they take longer when you can't do it at the factory. And so we're doing that. Another thing that was really cool that just I might be literally voted on today at the legislature as we wrap up our session is we have an ADU bill that came through this year, and we were able to get put into it the ability for a statewide approval allowance that the Division of Housing has to help define, and we'll work through that. But what's cool about that is that if you're an ADU supplier or a modular factory that builds ADUs, you can build inventory because it's allowed to go anywhere in the state then from a code standpoint. And so that's something that, from a manufacturing standpoint, from a theory standpoint, is critical, right? You need to, Ford builds inventory. Ford doesn't build to order. They will, but, in general, they build inventory.
Right.
And so that's something that, we're really trying to kind of make sure is an available option. If you have a hole in your line or something like that, you can build 5 ADUs, and guess what? You can sell them anywhere in the state instead of only being restricted to, some little tiny geographic area of the state. We have a lot of variation in our state, right? We have, I think, 5 different climate zones, and it's kind of nuts here. And so this is really trying to help, establish, giving those factories that are here, some resources to be able to manage their financials.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, right? Like, fill the line. There's always downtime on a line somewhere. We don't ever want it, but projects get delayed, the financial markets go haywire, the governments do stupid things, whatever the case is. There's always a cause and effect that affects us somewhere along the line. So I really, really like that. And if you get that, if that code was passed today, send it to me. I'd love to put it out there to everybody, or put it
absolutely.
Below. So take a look at that afterwards.
It's gonna pass, and our session's over on Wednesday. So if it's not done already, it'll be done in the next 2 days. So yeah.
Love it. I love it. So with this all said, right? There's other competition coming in, right? Garden's coming in. They're opening a new factory, not net zero. Let's talk about, how is your process going to allow you to build affordably? That's the question, right? Because it's all the same products. It's more detail. Net zero homes isn't expensive products. It's just paying attention to details. Air sealing.
It is, there's a couple kind of market factors that I kind of want to talk about, and so, Gurdon, it was one of the awards to come in to be able to set up a factory, Colorado. There was, and I forget their name, but we had a factory that was a little bit in trouble down in Colorado Springs, and one of the awards was for a California company that does ADUs. It's like Adobe, but I think it has a Z at the end. I'm going to get that a little bit wrong, but and so they're going to pick up the factory down in the Springs, and then there's one that's, I think, down in Durango area that got an award as well, and they do like heavy timber modular stuff. And so the thing is that with the market utilization so low in Colorado, so far below national market share, when we were kind of putting together the bills, for factories and trying to figure out the amount of money and all that kind of stuff, we ran some numbers based upon how many factories could we have in Colorado just to get up to average market share, and that number, I think, was between 6 and 9 full scale volumetric factories. And we're not stepping on each other's toes until we get to that point. And so from my standpoint, I welcome those other factories, to Colorado, because we all have a lot of work to do here, and getting us all organized and kind of headed in the right direction is really important. So, but from the detail standpoint, net zero housing, it's a lot of details. It's a lot of, engineering, if you will, to get to that point. NREL, that's kind of a lot of the support that they're helping us, provide. And the other thing too is that our state is starting to incentivize affordable housing that is built to a higher than what's required energy code, net zero, all those things. And so all of the state affordable housing applications and things like that are starting to really give a priority, get higher points, if you will, in their matrix, to projects that are, energy efficient. And so that's something that, we want to make sure that we provide them an option to be able to check that box.
Sure.
So, yeah.
as you're building out this factory, people are important, right? And as
Yeah.
they say, business is easy until people get involved.
Right.
So there's that side of it. The culture of this new factory is going to be a very, very big deal in my mind because they need to buy into how much the details matter, especially when it comes to net zero, because there is no hiding it when it gets on site. If it wasn't built tight, you're going to have
You
issues,
got
right?
leaks. Right.
And factories struggle with quality labor all the time. What's your plan?
I think about this a lot. I think I heard one time. I think the CEO of Gurdon said something like, people are our number one resource,
Yeah,
and they are. And looking at kind of leading a group that is not only focused on um, energy efficiency, but also I think equally important is helping people in Colorado afford housing.
yeah,
Helping kind of like your fellow Coloradoan, if you will, to be able to afford a home. And so, from a culture standpoint, I want that to be part of it. Some of our partnerships that we're talking about with Habitat is not only to provide them housing, but also have a built-in promise for volunteering, where we can send over some of our employees that would like to volunteer for a day or two on each project that they're putting together, to be
right.
able to kind of put them on the front lines of being able to see kind of the fruits of their labor, if you will, at the factory, helping families get into homes. And so I think the other thing too, just being transparent, that I think is going to be a big part of it is I myself have done everything there is to do in modular over the years.
Right.
And, I look forward to being a very kind of present on the line leader, from an organizational standpoint. I think I was telling you earlier that, Fridays I plan on working in a station every Friday, and I will tell you that will be my absolute favorite day of the week, out there kind of trying to, understand what their struggles are, what's going on, how to help. And, I hope they can keep up. So,
That's it, right? Can you keep up with the team leader?
yep.
Well, it's all about it's all about setting the tone, setting the pace, and leading shoulder to shoulder is better than leading from some platform 20 feet up above,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And I think getting to know the people and them getting to know you, because as you work, you're going to be talking about personal things, your daughter,
Yeah.
right? Whatever.
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
that's part of people buying into the culture because they believe in the mission, and that mission is being carried forward by people that want to be together
Yeah.
and enjoy working with each other. So super, super awesome. Where are we at as far as this factory up and running and product coming out the door? How far away are we?
You know, luckily, the fabrication shops right now are not exactly booming.
Yeah,
So the lead times that when we were looking at this, coming on a year ago, everybody was 6 to 9 months, to build out all your catwalks and everything, that needs to
yeah,
happen. And so right now, we're looking at delivery times of 5 to 6 months, on most of the stuff that we're looking
yeah.
at. There's some computerized saws that are way out there, like 18 months plus. And so we'll have to make do until they can show up. But other than that, we're hoping to basically be able to start assembling equipment probably, in that 4 to 5 month time frame.
Right,
Probably
right.
obviously take us a couple months to get all that together, and hopefully, stick something on the line by the end of the year.
All right. Well, listen, I truly wish you all the best of luck on that. Nate, is there anything that we didn't touch on? I saw we had one last slide here as well. Do you want me to put that back up, or you good?
No, that one's okay. It's just
Got it.
a factory schematic,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
I
Nope.
think, one of the things I think, I also have a lot of knowledge of in our state is kind of, the affordable housing finance
Right.
arena, and that's one thing that, is a challenge for modular housing. When you're looking at, LIHTC projects and things like that, and certainly the deposit requirements,
Mhm.
that a lot of factories, have, and, the banks getting comfortable, with that, going out there without
Right.
anything being delivered or, all those things. And our state's really looking at that hard right now. We're trying to figure out how to support modular, kind of the typical modular financial project cycle, into our affordable housing projects. Because like I was saying, we haven't done a lot of them, and so Colorado right now is really, really, it's kind of been fun after being here for 20 years to, see them really starting to look at
Right.
this, intent with intention. And so, we're really trying to figure that side of things out in Colorado. And, hopefully, our governor said the other day that he hopes that he'd like us to get to 5% market share in 5 years, and so coming from 1.5, that's a big ask. We build 41,000 homes a year when things are ripping in Colorado.
So you're going from being a modular dealer. And explain what a dealer is. Are you a general contractor that works with factories, or do you actually have dealers set up to where you have model homes and buildings on
Yeah.
display?
So we have a dealership that has model homes, a sales center, a design center. We have 4 or 5 salespeople,
Right.
taking internet leads and drop-ins and all that. And we buy from 3 different manufacturers and have for a very long time. And back in the day, they were the ones that were in state, and then they all went out of business, and so then they all shifted over to being out of state manufacturers. And for years, we did the entire general contracting on every one of those houses as well. That was a lot of work when you have 6 or 7 houses going up in different corners of the state, and you're running crews all over the place and things like that. And so that's kind of where we kind of got our general contracting under us. And then we do development on the side. So we'll do 20 unit townhome projects that are modular, that we're buying from one of the dealers, but we'll now general those ourselves. We've switched to a model where on the retail homeowner side, we no longer do a lot of full general contracting. Every once in a while we will, but we have kind of this stable of contractors that we recommend, for the customer, to be able to complete and finish their project. We've always done installation services. That's just kind of been a part of our business. And so that's just kind of been, what it's looked like for the last good while now.
Well, you know what? Being a modular dealer for 20 years and then now moving into a manufacturer, you're going to see both of the left side of the road and the right side of the road.
Yeah.
So my guess is you're going to be a great mentor or coach for others in this industry, because you're going to have a view that a lot of people don't have, because there's always the push and pull between a modular builder and dealer and the manufacturers. Where does the contracts end? Where do they begin? Whose responsibility ends? And right?
Yep. Nope. And the thing I think that's been really interesting is we get in these design meetings that we've been having lately, on projects, and I am so opinionated on how we're going to build these things, because I'm like, nope, that means you have to do it on site. Make the factory do that, because I've been saying that for years, right? Stop putting your marriage lines in the middle of the living room. Put them in a doorway, so that the factory can complete all the flooring, and you don't lower your roof pitch by just a little bit, and then we can complete the entire roof at the factory instead of shipping you trusses, and just
details
all of those
matter.
things.
Yeah.
And so time will tell, but I want one of the things that we're known for to be completeness. Because if you design a project the right way in modular, you can make it so you can finish that thing on site in 2 or 3 months, if it's a big project. But if you make it so it's not friendly, you're struggling with that thing for 8 or 9 months, and everybody's annoyed by the time it's done, wondering, why did we even do it this way? And so I think that's kind of one of the key things that I really want us to kind of focus in on, is making sure that the projects we're sending out are ones that when the customer's done, they say, oh, well, that was actually pretty easy.
Right.
But you don't get that unless you've done it a bunch.
No, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree with you more. So let's go to a couple comments here real quick, and then we're going to wrap up with your final words, Nate. So we got Joel Hutchins in the house. What's up, Joel? Hopefully you're enjoying sunny Florida. and the weather is nice. Always good when you tune in. Hey, there's Steve Dubin. If you're not following this guy on the social channels, you're wrong. Colorado is one of the most forward-moving states on the energy code, more so than even California has been. Starting with the robust envelope instead of mechanicals always helps. 100%, but you can't forget about mechanicals and modular, ever. That's the biggest thing, Achilles heel and modular over everything else. You agree with that?
Yeah, I think our whole state goes to 2021 IECC in January. Yeah.
Got it. Henry Mickelberg, is the net zero methodology clearly specified, or is it open to interpretation? Oh, like all of our other codes? That's a great question.
Or is it not even defined?
Yeah.
There's zero home ready program, but net zero is kind of, I realize there's organizations that kind of promote variations of it, but yeah, it's something that in my mind, it's just, basically running your meter at neutrality, and how do you go about doing that, over time. And there's obviously a lot of different ways you can go about it.
Joe Hutchins is back. He wrote a book. Amazing, and kudos to the team. I do fear that selling standardized mods into the market whilst setting up the factory and process may be a problem. I just hope they have enough runway for the tough times ahead. I also think that it may be easier to just be the developer here. You never know. I don't know. You were the developer and builder, so you're dipping your toes in.
I don't think he's necessarily wrong. I think being a developer, it's not that hard. You can kind of always scale down really quick when you get to the times like these, and when you're the factory and you run into times like these. There's a lot of factories out there right now that are having a hard time. I always told myself if I wanted to do this, I would try to do it at the bottom of a market. And then there's days lately that I have this gut check. I'm like, well, this is exactly how that feels. I hope you knew what you were asking for. But no, I do. I think that, the thing is, our state wasn't asking for developers. Our state was asking for, factory manufacturing. And so, that's kind of where we were able to kind of step up and put together the team to provide. And right now we have a lot of developers that need us. Right. And we have a lot of affordable housing demand in our state. And so our commitment to our state for the funding that we got, we should cover this, is basically that we will always give a priority to an affordable housing project over a market rate project. And for us, that's really defined kind of internally more or less as 120% AMI and lower. Right. And so right now, most factories aren't full, but you were around 2 years ago when factories had 18-month backlogs.
That's right.
If we find ourselves in that situation again, we're going to be giving priority to the affordable housing projects, to make sure that those organizations in our state, stay supplied.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, and that was part of the agreement, and that's what helped you build the factory. And you got to stay true to those agreements and to your core, because that's your entire focus.
Yeah, right. It's our mission.
All right. Greg Ugaldi says, very interesting, DC Live. Does Vederra have a goal for the number of units per year? Does Nate feel that they are on target?
So our first full year, I think if I go back to the pro forma, I think it's about 180 units, boxes, floors, whatever you want to call them. And I think that's conservative, to make sure that, cash flow works. If you fast forward, I think to 3 to 4 years later in the pro forma, I want to say it's up or in the high 400s a year.
High 400s.
Yeah.
All right. Here's the last one from our very own Jennifer Cooper. Does entrepreneurial spirit run in the family? Aspen Peterson seems to share your passion for helping others with High School Babysitters LLC and her Leading Ladies podcast. There's the plug I was talking about for your daughter. She interviews female executives from around the world, right? And she's how old?
17. She's a junior in high school. Yep.
And she has her own babysitting website and has how many babysitters around the country?
So it's a babysitting match. It's kind of like care.com, but for high school babysitters. It's called highschoolbabysitters.com. And she's got, I think, 3,000 babysitters signed up all over the country for it. And so, yeah, I think it was I don't think she could not be entrepreneurial. Her mom is an entrepreneur as well. And so I think it's just kind of, it's how life is for her.
Yeah.
And so, so she's been having fun with it.
Well, listen, if those of you out there are watching, go check out her podcast and also the babysitting site if you're in need of a babysitter.
You need a high school babysitter. there's a bunch of them.
Nate, appreciate having you on the show today. Is there anything that I left out that before we end that you wanted to say?
No, Dave, thanks for your show. Thanks for, your focus on the industry. I think it's going to be a really interesting, next 3-5 years in our industry. A lot of people need the help of the industry. There's going to be a lot of growth, a lot of people joining, and a lot of people that need good advice, and your show does a good job getting it out there.
Excellent. Well, Nate, I appreciate everything you guys do, and I appreciate everything you're doing with the folks over at NREL. Please tell them the Dave Cooper Live Show says hello, and hopefully we'll get out there again soon. But for the rest of you out there, we're going to wrap up with some final words from our sponsor. Nate, stay where you're at. I'll come with you back to you after the show.
Sounds good.
Bye, everybody. What an amazing show. Thank you to all of our sponsors for helping us to continue to bring all of these innovative conversations to all of you out there. Please visit them, see what they have to offer you. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring that bell. It would mean the world to us. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching.